Hello, welcome to another episode of Cam Chat. I'm here with my co-host, Matt the Southwest Backpacker, and today we are in the Chama Canyon Wild and Scenic River Wilderness. And I have a place here in the Chama Canyon. If you keep track of my channel, you know that. My house is probably a couple hundred yards up that direction. We thought we'd come out and kind of find a cool spot. Nice background. We have the river probably running, I'm going to say 40 or 50 yards back behind us, back in the trees back there. There is so much water running that it's super loud, so that's what kind of kept us from setting up next to the river, because there's a lot of water and it's making a lot of noise.
It's just below 1,000 CFS.
Right there, yeah. So, well, welcome. I'm glad you could join us on Cam Chat as usual.
Thank you.
Always love having you with us. Matt's a regular part of the show, so we always appreciate having him around. Well, we decided to float the Chama Canyon, or the Chama River, this year because all the forests are closed.
Right.
And we elected not to drive in, perhaps cause any problems with the vehicle or any sparks, so we elected to float in.
Right, because the forests are closed basically because of the fire danger.
Right, right. And so we went in and we got in the river just below Elvado Dam. Looking at Elvado Lake, it is really low. I don't know how much longer they can continue releasing this large amount of water out of that lake, because if they continue,
there's not going to be anything in there.
And they got to save the fish.
Right.
I mean, they've got to keep the fish alive. So
right.
You wonder how much longer that could go in. So we thought it would be a good opportunity for us to take advantage.
Absolutely.
And float the river. I know you've never floated this section of the river, have you?
I have not. This was my first time.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad to take the Southwest Backpacker on an expedition that he's never done before, because he's done so damn much. It's cool to get him out somewhere to do something new.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really had a good time.
Yeah. So, a question for you. When we pulled up in the vehicle next to the river and unloaded and got all ready to go, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking?
Well, I mean, my first thoughts when we were driving over the dam was, wow, that was the lowest I'd ever seen the water in the dam.
Yes, at Elvado.
So, yeah, you know that we didn't get a lot of snow this year to fill that up, but once we got down to the river and took a look at it, I realized how fast it was moving, and I thought, you know, we're going to get down the canyon pretty quickly. We had a bunch of gear laid out, and we weren't quite sure if we were going to get it all into the boat, but you know what? We managed to get it into the boat.
We figured it out, and while you're talking about that, my mom and dad were so gracious enough to take us up and drop us off, so thank you to that. Thank you to both of them. Love you. But as Matt and I were trying to fit the gear in the boat, I saw my dad's back to me, and he was talking to my mom, and he turned back around with a smile on his face, and I think I got a pretty good idea of what he was saying. These guys aren't going to make it down that river with all that gear.
They're never going to make it.
They're never going to make it.
Sink it like the Titanic.
Exactly. I could see that look on his face. So, okay, so back to where we were. You were looking at the river and...
looking at the river, thinking the water was moving pretty fast, and I thought we would get down the canyon relatively quickly. And so I think the moment we got on the water, I broke out my phone and we took a look at the GPS to see how fast we were moving, just idle without paddling.
Right.
Kind of in a still section. And I think we were going about 4 miles an hour, just idling.
That was in the still section.
That was just in a still water section that wasn't moving very fast.
Yeah, 4.5 miles an hour.
More of the narrow sections where the water was moving fast, but maybe not rapids, was 7 miles per hour, just idle speed without paddling. So it was scooting pretty quickly.
We were moving right along.
Yeah.
One of the things I always like to do is play it safe, and so we stopped a couple times and looked at some rapids and make sure that we were on the same page as far as how we were going to negotiate them.
Exactly.
And we started taking on water.
We took on some water. And we weren't quite sure how this water was coming into the boat, whether it was splash in or if it was coming up from underneath. But we weren't going through a whole bunch of rapids that was splashing in.
Yeah.
And after a while, I think we realized, I think this is coming from the boat somewhere underneath.
We had a leak.
We had a leak.
We had a leak.
Not just a leak, but we had a couple of leaks.
Yeah, we did. We were probably, I'm guessing, maybe a little bit past halfway. We were not quite to Aragon Springs yet, but we elected to stop and pull everything out of the boat and kind of give it a look-see over. And then we discovered on the bottom side there was about a 2.5-inch gash that was one of the biggest.
Little L-shaped 2-inch gash, you know, and it was the biggest one, and that for sure was what was taking the
That's
water
what was
on.
filling up. Because when we pulled the boat to the edge, the water was up to my ankles. It was 4 inches deep in the boat. There was a lot of water, too much to negotiate with.
Right.
So we pulled the boat out, flipped it over, figured out the holes that we had. We had some good patches that were supposed to hold with water and everything. So we
applied the patches?
We used all the patches that we had. We still had a little bit of bicycle patch that we used, one more small little piece to complete. I think we patched 5 or 6 holes.
We had about 5 or 6 holes.
At least.
One that was real major that we were talking about, and the other ones were kind of just up against the hull part of the boat.
Right.
Where it had gone over a rock, I think, and may have
yeah, we scooted over some rocks.
Gouged into the raft material.
To the
underneath.
plastic, the rubber. But so we spent about an hour and a half on the side of the river. We wanted to make sure that stuff was cured before we got it back in the water. We got it back in the water, and it seemed to hold out 98% of what was coming in. We still had a little bit coming in, but
a little bit of water, but nothing like it was.
Way tolerable with what we had.
Totally doable at that point.
Right,
yeah.
right. So then the next step is we got to Aragon Springs, and I've had a funny feeling about Aragon Springs since Rick Earthplay and I did that river run about 5 years ago, and we had issues. We almost lost everything we owned, and we worked through it. We got out of it, but those kind of memories never go away. You consider them as a learning tool, and so I was insistent on getting out and looking at Aragon Springs. I know Matt really wanted to run Aragon Springs without looking at them. Matt was adamant in running the springs, and I really was not very adamant about doing that. But we got out and took a look at it.
We both decided, you know what, it's too crazy to go through that stuff, especially for the condition of our boat and not having too many more patches to repair stuff with.
That was one of the big deciding factors, is we were running out of patching material.
Right.
And looking at Aragon Springs, that's some pretty serious Class 2 rapids.
There was boulders in there.
Exposed rocks
that would be really hard to navigate around.
We would have hit some rocks, and we would have torn the bottom out of the boat again. So I think after Matt looked at the river and realized what I was talking about, I think he was more on board with my idea about portaging around.
Oh, yeah.
Around that.
Yeah, that's a portageable spot. I mean, they've got a little trail that goes through and around that big water feature.
Yep, so
there's a reason why. And when you get to it, you can hear the rapids coming, and you can see it throwing you to one side where all the nasty boulders are. If you don't get it just right the first time, that's basically it. Yeah,
and like I said, I dealt with that 5 years ago. I was more up to porting around it, and it wasn't that bad. It took us about 30, 45 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Unpack, carry everything down, repack up, jumped in the boat. We were set to go.
Happy campers at that point.
Yes, yeah.
We were only about 20 minutes away from your cabin.
From the cabin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we hit the upper end of the Dark Canyon Rapids. Now those are the rapids that are in front of my cabin.
Yes.
And there's some big boulders in front of at the top end of the Dark Canyon Rapids as well. Although we were more familiar with that because we've looked at it a lot and floated it before, and so we pulled right in. Matt showed me a really neat way to maneuver the boat when it comes to landing, and we pulled it in and landed it right on a dime, even with that water running 7 miles an hour.
Sure did.
In the rapids. We pulled it up and parked it right in the exact spot where we wanted to do it.
To go.
I was amazed. I was impressed with our abilities. But it was a fun float. I will admit that before Aragon Springs, I was a little bit nervous going down the river because I remembered back. Had a great time still, but I was a little nervous about Aragon Springs. And once we got past that, I had a whole new attitude towards life. I was happy to get past Aragon Springs. And made it down to the cabin.
I was glad that we made it down to the cabin and everything was safe and sound. And when we got here, it was a relief. I mean, we got everything out of the boat, and
95% of our stuff was wet.
Everything was wet. We were out draining it out, and we still had a little bit of sunshine to kind of dry stuff off. And sure enough, we got most of it dried off.
We did. I remember out there that first night, I was wringing the water out of my pillow.
Yes.
Literally wringing the water out of my pillow. And but yeah, everything managed to dry up. Most of my stuff, my important stuff, was dry. Most of my bedding was dry. I know Matt had some electronics that got a little bit wet, and we're still in the process of trying to dry some of that stuff out.
We're still in question. It was a couple battery packs that I usually bring backpacking with me and whatnot, and they're acting a little funky, but they are still functioning a little bit. So we'll give it another day or two. We'll see what happens.
Sensitive electronics and water.
Yeah, you got to be sure to double, triple, quadruple your bag.
Yes.
Or whatever item you want to stick in a bag. Be sure to cover it with multiple layers. Just
Good advice.
In case something like this happens.
Good advice.
It happened to us. I took on some damage to the batteries, and it's not a huge deal, but you don't want to lose that kind of stuff. It's good to really double, triple, quadruple the bags you put around it.
Yeah, it does make a difference. My camera gear were all inside Ziploc bags inside my camera case. Then that was inside a garbage bag. So there was 2 layers of protection, and my stuff stayed pretty dry.
Yes.
Yeah, I was really happy with that. So we've been down here. Matt has been playing with his toy, his drone.
We brought the drone with us.
And I would.
Fortunately, that survived. It never got a drop of water.
Yeah, took care of that one.
Nope.
But I think eventually Matt's going to be putting out some awesome IMAX quality video. The drone flying up and down the canyon in different areas, and I think he's going to be gracious enough to let me show a little bit.
Oh, you're getting all of it.
We might even show a piece of it right now while we're talking.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit of flashing. Well, probably what you're seeing is the drone. I think we're going to probably show the drone flying down river about 20 feet above the river, and it's just amazing footage. So check this out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we were flying it up canyon as well, and we were taking it up closer to Navajo Peak, where you could spin it around and have it looking right towards your camera, or your cabin rather.
Be able to take some great snapshots off of that video.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah, cool stuff. Matt has really mastered his abilities at flying this thing around.
Had a few hours to fly it around,
and a few crashes on different different drones.
Yep. That's how it goes. I mean, that's all the learning process with it.
Being a learning pilot.
Once you become good at it, and you're willing to be patient, the crashes become less and less. And thankfully, I haven't crashed in a while. So.
And then the 2K video is just. It goes without saying.
It is. It can go up to 4K. My computer can't really handle it.
Yeah.
So I've toned it down to 2K, and then so everything that you guys are seeing was originally recorded at 2K. So you get this brilliant, vibrant video that's just very high quality. You can see all the pixel resolution in there. It's awesome.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Anything else you want to bring up here while we're here?
Well, I just want to thank you very much for inviting me on this trip. And this
thank you for coming.
Down the Rio Chama and,
Heck yeah.
And parking up here at your cabin. I think this is awesome. We still got more adventure tomorrow.
That's right. We still have another 10 miles to float tomorrow.
We do.
So we'll get up fairly early, get on the river, and hopefully be out. I think my mom and dad are going to be down there waiting for us somewhere around 2 o'clock.
They're going to
Got to thank you guys again for
party.
Yep, there'll be our extraction party, and I just want to say thank you again for being our chauffeurs up to the drop-off point and the get-out point. That's really huge for us.
That's awesome. Two thumbs up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I guess we're about ready to call this a camp chat.
I guess this is a camp chat.
This is a camp chat. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is kind of a special time for us. Kind of a first-time deal, camp chat on the river, floating, and I was really excited about getting out here and doing one. Too bad we're not a little closer to the river, but back to it's just so darn loud down there.
It's hard to do video and the microphone next to the water, although it does look gorgeous.
That's right. It's a great feature. Okay, well, I guess that'll wrap it up for this episode of Camp Chat. Matt, it's been a great trip. We still have some more to go. Be sure and stay tuned for the video of us floating the river. There's going to be probably a 2 or 3 part series. And also, Matt was gracious enough to sit down with me and do a short video on the use of alum in preparing your water for drinking.
Water.
Yeah, and that's a great video, and I'd really suggest that you check that out. It's amazing on what that stuff does. So I won't give you any more about it, but tell you more. But be sure and check that out too. All right. Well, thank you for watching the knynmanRog YouTube channel. Any questions or comments, you're always welcome to leave them down below. We always appreciate the thumbs ups.
Thumbs up.
And we're always looking for new subscribers. We're doing cool stuff. So please subscribe. We'd surely appreciate it. And if you do, you get to see some cool stuff.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thanks for watching. Thumbs up.